Well, as you know, I was covert all through childhood, adolescence, adulthood. Why was I covert? I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. My parents, of course, would say, Frankie, take a deep breath. Think about what you're going to say. Of course, that didn't work. So then they sent me to speech therapy. Well, that didn't work. So I think I was covert. They were upset that I stuttered as well. I had one brother, one sister. I was the only stutterer, of course. And I wanted to protect them too, because I didn't, I wanted to protect them. And
what are you protecting them from?
From their own disappointment and frustration that I stuttered and I was having a difficult time at school. I was covert. I hid it. And I hid it quite well, not perfectly. I wound up here, didn't I? I didn't. But I won't take a back seat to anyone on having the biggest bag of tricks going of how to hide it. And I hid it well, very well. Not perfectly, but I had all sorts of tricks. Meetings were, of course, introducing yourself for any stutterer is probably one of the worst nightmares. And of course, during the business day, you don't go around introducing yourself to people constantly, but at meetings, oftentimes you would. So I had different tricks I would use. I'd come in late to the meeting after introductions were over. I'd avoid the meeting. I was too busy, or one of my more humorous ones was I would say, well, everybody knows who I am, so I'll let you introduce yourself, and I'd point to the person next to me. And believe it or not, that worked quite a lot. But sometimes I did have to introduce myself, and it was just a nightmare. It was humiliating. It was terrible. It was terrible. And yeah, it wasn't easy. No. Now, of course, I'm a physician, and when you have a patient in the hospital and they get discharged, by convention, you would go downstairs to the administrative office, pick up a tape recorder, and dictate a discharge summary. Well, I couldn't do that. I mean, I could have, but I didn't want to. So what I would do is every discharge summary for every patient, I would write it out. And since I had poor handwriting, I would have to print. So I would give a printed copy of every discharge summary to the typing pool, and they loved me because they they didn't. I was doing all the work for them, but yeah, I hid it. I hid it. Yes, I did. I was covert.
What about as an attorney?
My courtroom experiences were. I have a lot of nightmare experiences. And once I remember I was entering a guilty plea on some counts for a client. I was in the JAG court, a legal branch of the Army, and I entered a guilty plea on several counts, and we were contesting some, and I couldn't get the word guilty out. And I just had a terrible block. So anyway, the judge called a recess, and he said, and he invited me back to his chambers, and he said, "What the hell's the problem?" And I said, I stutter. And he said, "Oh, you say," he didn't know what happened. So did I have nightmare experiences? Yes, but yeah, I got through them somehow. And Edward Newville, he's got more. He's got even more because he did it longer than I did it for. But yeah, it was a nightmare.
So compared to most of the other people who come to avoid introduction therapy, you came later in your career.
Yes.
It must have gotten to some level in your head or in your emotional reactivity to stuttering? What brought you to therapy?
Well, my colleagues address this. Different things got us here, and one of the things is if you hang around long enough, and I did, what happens? They put you in charge. And then I became the public face of my activity and the mouthpiece and the public spokesperson, and I was expected to do more speaking and more public speaking and more public speaking, and I would moderate things, and I just got to the point where I told you when I got here, I said I contemplated retirement because I just couldn't do it anymore. And people have used the word exhaustion. Yes, I was exhausted at the end of the day, just exhausted. And I contemplated retiring just to get out of it. Yeah. In short, covert can work to a point, but it doesn't work well, and it doesn't work forever. No, it doesn't. Avoidance reduction therapy has enabled all of us, when we speak in public or address a group, to concentrate more on the message, on the content, because heretofore I never worried about the content either. It was only stuttering and fear of stuttering. It was all-consuming. And in recent years, it's a real joy to worry about your content and concentrate on it. Yes, absolutely, that's true. Yeah, the thought of I'm trying not to stutter, and everybody, it's been mentioned here before, and everybody says just go ahead and stutter. It's like, wait a minute, this is confusing. This is not what I want to do. I want to not stutter, not stutter. Somebody used the word avoidance reduction therapy is freeing, and it is freeing because you don't have to be, if you're covert, like I was, finally, you don't have to be afraid that people are going to discover that you are a stutterer. You already advertised it. The cat's out of the bag. You can finally relax. You can finally worry about what you're saying as opposed to, am I going to have a disfluency or not? Yeah. You said a long time ago when I just started therapy, and I was relating all my fears of stuttering, and she said, with everything going on in the world, probably the last thing on people's minds is, are you going to stutter or not? They got way more things to worry about than, are you going to have a disfluency? And that's very true. I always remembered that. At this point, I need to have a good deal of disfluency, not fluency, because if I'm too fluent, I'm back where I was. I'm covert. I'm hiding it, and I become afraid. My listener will discover that I am a stutterer. I need to have a healthy amount of disfluency, whether it's voluntary disfluency or not, a healthy amount so that they know I'm a stutterer, and then I can relax. Then that fear is gone. It's life impact of stuttering that's so powerful. That's the power. The disfluencies are nothing. It's, at this point, after avoidance reduction therapy, I mean, I can almost say, who cares how many disfluencies? It's, at least I'm me now. I'm me, yeah. When I started in therapy with you, I said, I don't want to stutter. I don't want to. And you're telling me, go ahead and stutter. And you said, what are you afraid of? Will your wife love you less? And these type of things. And yeah, I mean, at this point, I think I do accept myself much more than I ever did for who I am. And I think other people do too. And I find out they think I'm okay, even though I do stutter. Yeah. I think that's the experience of all of us. Yeah. Let me recount one that I thought was a very good success story. As we've all said, introducing ourselves is a hard thing for most stutterers to do, including myself. So uh, meetings and a lot of nightmare scenarios we've all been through. But just in the last about 3-4 years ago, we used to have these town hall meetings, or kind of like an off-site retreat, and the way it works is they go around the room and everyone will introduce themselves. Then the leaders of the activity of the various departments, that I am one, would have to tell a little bit about their departmental activities and how they're progressing and what they're doing. So it was just a nightmare. So probably 8 or 10 months into therapy here, I thought, okay, I'm going to go with it now. I'm gonna do it. And so I practiced. How did I practice? How did I prepare? I said, number one, I'm going to be disfluent. Number two, I'm going to be confident. Number three, I'm going to try to think of content for a change and not just stuttering. Well, the big day came, and we were going around the room, and it was my turn, so I got up, I stood up, and I said, my name is Frank Flannery. And you were right. It did get easier over time to introduce myself. You were right. I didn't believe you, but you were right. And I told a little bit about our department, and it was a 2-hour affair. Then when everyone left, the room was empty, and I went around the room and I counted every chair. There were 73 chairs. So I introduced myself in front of 72 other people, almost 100 people, and I was very proud of that. And that's my success story. For me, stuttering has very little to do with disfluencies, and it has everything to do with fear. It's fear. You're afraid of being discovered as a stutterer. You're afraid of being viewed as defective or, disabled or something. And yeah, it's all fear. The disfluencies per minute and per second and per hour and all that are almost meaningless. Almost meaningless. It's the fear.